Chapter 1. Elias Voss stepped into the tribunal chamber, his boots echoing against polished obsidian floors. The chamber was vast, a dome of shifting starlight that flickered with holographic projections of galactic history. Hundreds of alien dignitaries filled the gallery, their eyes, some glowing, others slitted or multifaceted, locked onto him with a mix of curiosity and contempt. At the center, High Arbiter Sci-fi loomed over a crescent-shaped dais, his translucent robes pulsing with faint luminescence. His elongated skull, ridged with veins of bioluminescent blue, tilted as he regarded Elias with cool detachment. Around him, 12 other tribunal judges sat in silence, their forms obscured in mist, representing the most powerful factions in the galaxy. Elias adjusted his collar and forced a smirk. "Hell of a welcome." No one laughed. A gong resonated through the chamber. The Arbiter's voice, smooth as polished steel, filled the space. "Humanity stands accused of violating the principle of galactic stability. Your rapid expansion, technological leaps, and unnatural adaptability pose a threat to the balance carefully maintained for millennia. Today, this tribunal determines whether your kind is fit to remain a sovereign species, or if restrictions must be placed upon your growth." The weight of it pressed on Elias, but he masked it behind an easy stance. "Restrictions? Sounds a lot like a cage." Sci-fi's pupils, slit thin, narrowed further. "A safeguard." The first witness was called, a towering, quadrupedal being with a shell-like exoskeleton and crystalline eyes. A historian of the Dratsari. "Humanity," the historian began, "is an anomaly. Your species has achieved, in mere centuries, what others took millennia to grasp. You do not integrate. You assimilate. Wherever you go, you disrupt. You wage war against entropy itself, refusing the natural course of decline." A holographic projection shimmered to life, a human colony on a barren world, once inhospitable, now thriving under massive biospheres. Another image, human soldiers outmaneuvering a numerically superior alien force, their tactics unpredictable, their sheer will overpowering. The historian's mandibles clicked. "In every instance, you refuse to accept limitation. This is unnatural. Dangerous." Elias let out a slow breath, stepping forward. "You say we don't belong because we move too fast. That we shouldn't be this good at survival. But let me ask, if a species adapts, builds, and overcomes obstacles, is that not a testament to strength rather than a crime?" The historian's crystalline eyes pulsed. "Strength unchecked becomes conquest. You will overrun this galaxy, just as you have overrun your own world." Elias shook his head. "Conquest? We weren't handed a homeworld with perfect conditions. Earth tried to kill us from the start. We faced ice ages, plagues, wars, half of them our own damn fault, but we survived because we learned. We don't just take. We build. And we don't just fight. We ally." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Some species had seen this firsthand, humans lifting struggling civilizations, sharing technology, standing beside them in wars they had no stake in. Sci-fi raised a hand, silencing the chamber. "You speak as if your kind is benevolent. But the data tells a different story." He gestured. A new projection appeared, footage of a Zelvari fleet, shattered, burning. A battle between humans and an alien armada. Elias clenched his jaw. He recognized the battle immediately. The Keros conflict. The Arbiter's voice remained measured. "Your forces, vastly outnumbered, should have perished. Instead, you adapted mid-conflict, altering strategies in ways even our most advanced tacticians could not predict. A victory deemed statistically impossible. Yet you achieved it." Elias met the Arbiter's gaze. "You're afraid of us because we don't break the way you expect. That's the real issue, isn't it?" The chamber stirred again. A deep, guttural voice interrupted. "You claim humanity is not a threat, yet your existence challenges every law of natural order." A reptilian dignitary from the Sauron Dominion leaned forward, slit eyes narrowing. "Your soldiers fight past physical limits. Your thinkers solve problems generations before others even recognize them. If left unchecked, Your species will shape the galaxy to its will. Elias exhaled through his nose. Maybe you should be asking yourselves why that bothers you so much. The arbiter leaned forward. Because stability is paramount. The words fell heavy. This was the core of it. The tribunal didn't care that humans had won battles or built thriving worlds. What scared them was that humanity's very existence exposed stagnation. Showed species that more was possible. Elias glanced around the chamber. He wasn't just speaking for humanity now. He was speaking for every species kept in check, every race that had been told to know their place. A slow smile tugged at his lips. Let's be honest here. This isn't about humans breaking the rules. It's about us proving that the rules were never real to begin with. Silence. The arbiter's expression darkened. You speak boldly, Captain Voss. But your words will not outweigh evidence. The lights dimmed. A final hologram appeared, classified, restricted files. Elias tensed. Humanity, Sci-fi announced, has already crossed a threshold deemed impossible. The projection flickered, showing intercepted transmissions. Schematics. A classified experiment. Elias's blood ran cold. Tell me, Captain, the arbiter murmured, eyes gleaming. Would you care to explain this? The image sharpened. What Elias saw made his stomach drop. It wasn't just human progress. It was something that should not have been possible. Something that could change everything. Cliffhanger. Chapter 2. The chamber held its breath. The hologram flickered in eerie blue light, illuminating Elias Voss's face as he stared at the classified data. His mind worked fast, piecing together the implications. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough, it was evidence that humanity had stepped into something unprecedented. Something the tribunal feared. Across the crescent dais, High Arbiter Sci-fi studied him, waiting for a reaction. The other judges murmured in hushed voices, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Whatever was on that screen had shaken even them. Elias exhaled through his nose, keeping his expression neutral. Where did you get this? Sci-fi's lips curled in something close to a smirk. From your own people. That was a lie. Elias could see it in the slight shift of the arbiter's pupils. But playing his hand too soon would be a mistake. He needed time. The hologram zoomed in, revealing complex energy matrices, gravitational anomalies, and theoretical models that defied conventional physics. The words at the top sent a chill through him. Project Singularity, Phase 2. This wasn't a weapon. It was something deeper. More dangerous. A voice broke the silence. Explain this, now? Elias turned to the speaker, a towering insecto diplomat from the Corellian hive mind. Their kind rarely spoke individually, which meant the tribunal was taking this very seriously. He straightened his shoulders. It's an experiment in applied physics. Gravitational manipulation. A theory, nothing more. Sci-fi's eyes gleamed. A theory? The hologram flickered, revealing a timestamp. 3 months ago. Elias kept his breathing steady. The arbiter continued. We intercepted this data en route to a classified human research station on the edge of unclaimed space. It suggests your kind is attempting to harness forces beyond your control. Beyond anyone's control. A heavy silence followed. The implications were clear. If humanity had made progress in manipulating singularities, they weren't just advancing, they were stepping into the realm of gods. Elias forced a chuckle. You're telling me the galaxy's greatest minds are scared of human scientists thinking too hard? A growl came from the Sauron representative. Spare us the mockery. This is a violation of every interstellar agreement on technological restraint. Sci-fi tilted his head. There is no natural boundary you will not cross, is there? No law of nature you will respect? Elias met his gaze. We don't break laws. We redefine them. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The arbiter's expression turned to stone. This is exactly why humanity cannot be trusted, the insectoid diplomat declared. You are reckless. Elias exhaled. Reckless? He gestured toward the hologram. We're the only species that doesn't accept limits just because someone else wrote them down. We're not reckless. We're relentless. The chamber erupted into argument. Some species shouted for immediate sanctions, others murmured about the implications of the research. A few remained silent, calculating. Elias scanned the room. He needed an ally. His gaze landed on a familiar figure in the gallery, Ambassador Elias Voss, a member of the Zanari, a species that had benefited from human alliances in the past. She caught his look, gave a near imperceptible nod. A crack in the tribunal's unified front. Zyferval raised a hand. Silence fell. The tribunal will deliberate, he announced. We will determine the extent of your deception. His gaze locked onto Elias. You may have the rest of the evening to prepare your final defense. The doors unsealed with a low hiss. Guards stepped forward. Elias was dismissed. The insectid's warning. Hours later, Elias sat in his quarters aboard the tribunal station, staring at a projection of the intercepted data. His mind raced through possibilities. Had Earth really pushed this far? Or was this a fabrication? A chime sounded. He turned. The door slid open, revealing an unlikely visitor, the Corellian diplomat. Elias stood, wary. Didn't think your kind liked private meetings. The insectoid stepped inside, their movements precise. I speak only for myself in this moment. Elias folded his arms. All right. What do you want? The diplomat studied him, mandibles clicking softly. You are not asking the right question. Elias frowned. And that would be? Why was this data revealed now? The words sank in. He narrowed his eyes. Go on. The diplomat moved closer. If this technology is real, your people would guard it with their lives. If it is false, someone wants you to suffer for it. Either way, the timing is no coincidence. Elias's pulse quickened. You think the tribunal set this up? The diplomat hesitated. Not the tribunal as a whole. But someone with influence. Someone who fears what you represent. Elias rubbed his jaw. Zyferval. A slow nod. He has always sought control through order. If humanity's potential cannot be contained, he will see to it that you are removed. Elias exhaled. That's comforting. The diplomat's mandibles twitched in something that might have been amusement. You have one chance to shift the narrative. But be warned, he has another move prepared. Elias glanced at the projection again. Then I'll have to be faster. The diplomat turned to leave, then paused. Your people are stubborn. It is admirable. Elias smirked. We call it survival. The door hissed shut behind them. The realization. Alone again, Elias leaned over the console, piecing together the pattern. The tribunal feared change. Humanity embodied it. Zyferval wasn't just holding a trial. He was setting a precedent. If humanity fell, every ambitious species in the galaxy would take the hint, know your place, or be erased. Elias exhaled sharply. He had to turn the tables. But first, he needed to know exactly what Zyferval was hiding. And he had one night to find out. Cliffhanger. Chapter 3. Elias Voss didn't sleep. He couldn't. Not with the weight of an entire species on his shoulders and a clock ticking down to an inevitable verdict. Somewhere out there, Zyferval was preparing his next move, tightening the noose. If Elias didn't act fast, humanity wouldn't just lose its sovereignty. It would be shackled, monitored, controlled. He paced his quarters, eyes locked on the holographic display. The intercepted Project Singularity files floated before him, blue light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The data felt wrong, too perfect, too damning. The Corellian diplomat had been right. This wasn't just a trial, it was a hit job. Elias cracked his knuckles. If the tribunal was going to cheat, he'd return the favor. Breaking the system. Getting out of his quarters unseen was easier than it should have been. The tribunal relied on order, strict protocols, predictable security cycles. Elias had studied their systems during his first diplomatic visit years ago. Now, he exploited them. A stolen clearance code. A well-timed systems lag. A maintenance corridor where no one would think to look. Within minutes, he was inside the station's restricted data archives. Rows of crystalline data vaults pulsed with soft blue light, holding records dating back thousands of years. The Tribunal's memory. The real history of galactic politics, unedited, untouched by propaganda. Elias pulled up the security logs from the moment the Project Singularity data had supposedly been intercepted. His gut told him there was no interception at all. Someone had planted it. Lines of alien script scrolled before his eyes. Most of it was encrypted, but one name stood out. Initiator, High Arbiter Sci-fi Voss. Elias felt his pulse spike. Bastard forged it himself. He didn't have time to dig deeper. A faint hum reached his ears, the telltale whir of approaching sentry drones. Swearing under his breath, Elias copied everything onto his wrist pad and slipped out the way he came. The confrontation. Morning came too soon. The tribunal chamber was even more crowded than before. The air buzzed with anticipation, a slow, simmering tension as the verdict approached. Elias walked in with his head high, the stolen data burning in his pocket. He wasn't just here to defend humanity anymore. He was here to expose the lie. Sci-fi Voss stood at the head of the dais, his face a mask of cold confidence. "Captain Voss," he said smoothly, "are you prepared to present your final statement before sentencing?" Elias stepped forward. "I am. But first, I'd like to ask a question." A ripple of curiosity moved through the chamber. The arbiter's expression remained unreadable. "A question?" Elias tilted his head. "Tell me, Arbiter, what's the penalty for fabricating evidence in a tribunal hearing?" A murmur swept through the gallery. Sci-fi Voss's eyes narrowed. "I would advise caution, Captain." Elias activated his wrist pad. The chamber dimmed as the holographic display flared to life, revealing the security logs. Gasps erupted as the data scrolled past, irrefutable proof that the Project Singularity files had been manipulated, their origins falsified. Sci-fi Voss's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. A split-second calculation. Elias folded his arms. "You weren't afraid of what we did. You were afraid of what we could do. You wanted an excuse to leash us before we outgrew the chains." He turned to the assembled judges. "This trial was never about stability. It was about control." The silence stretched. Then, for the first time since the hearing began, the tribunal fractured. Some judges exchanged uncertain glances. Others whispered furiously among themselves. A few, like the Sauron representative, looked ready to tear Elias apart, but they were outnumbered. Then came the voice Elias had been waiting for. "This evidence," said Ambassador Elias Voss of the Zenari, "is conclusive. The High Arbiter has manipulated this tribunal. That is a crime." Sci-fi Voss's hands tightened into fists. "This human is playing you all. His kind. Your deception has been revealed." The Corellian diplomat interrupted coolly. "The tribunal does not exist to serve your personal agenda." Elias kept his gaze locked on Sci-fi Voss, daring him to deny it. The arbiter's jaw clenched. He could feel the tide turning against him. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he straightened. "This changes nothing." Elias Voss narrowed her eyes. "It changes everything." The verdict. By the end of the day, the official ruling was clear. The fabricated evidence rendered the trial invalid. Sci-fi Voss was stripped of his authority, pending further investigation. And most importantly, humanity was free. Elias stood outside the chamber hours later, exhaling as the weight lifted from his chest. It wasn't a clean victory. Enemies had been made. The tribunal wouldn't forget this challenge to their power. But it was a win. A familiar voice pulled him from his thoughts. "You played a dangerous game." Elias turned. The Corellian diplomat stood in the dim corridor, watching him with unreadable eyes. He smirked. "You're welcome." They let out a soft, clicking laugh. "I was not thanking you. I was warning you." Elias crossed his arms. "Let me guess, the tribunal never forgets." A slow nod. Zyferval is only one piece of a greater machine. Others will take his place. They will be more careful next time. Elias's smirk faded. He already knew that. The diplomats studied him for a long moment, then inclined their head. Still, I admire your species. It does not wait for permission. Elias watched them disappear into the shadows. No, he thought. Humans didn't ask permission. And that was why they'd never be caged.